Okay. Thank you for joining us for the American Indian Alaska Native Tourism Association's webinar series. Today's educational webinar is Building a Main Street Community in Indian Country. My name is Bianca Mitchell. I am from the Pueblo of Acoma and I am AIANTA's Education Manager. Goati Gaitawa Haupa, Dutiash Shinome Kutu Tuwitsa, Eshje Kohayohanu Eshwashkawashti. I am Big Bear and Little Roadrunner, and again from the Pueblo of Acoma here in New Mexico. For those of you who are not familiar with AIANTA, for nearly 2 decades, AIANTA has served as the national voice for American Indian nations engaged in cultural tourism. In addition to serving as the voice for Indian country tourism, AIANTA provides technical assistance and training in tribal nations and Native-owned enterprises engaged in tourism, hospitality, and recreation. AIANTA's mission is to define, introduce, grow, and sustain American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian tourism that honors traditions and values. And AIANTA's educational offerings include this year's American Indian Tourism Conference, which will take place in person at the Wekopa Casino Resort on the Fort McDowell Yavapai Nation in Scottsdale, Arizona, from October 25th through the 28th. Registration opportunities are still available on our website. Reimagine, Reemerge, Reunite, Stronger Together in Indian Country is the theme of this year's conference, now celebrating its 23rd anniversary. In addition to our conference, AIANTA has teamed up with industry and federal partners to provide a series of webinars on resource development opportunities and other tourism-related topics. Most webinars are designed to equip organizations with information needed to find and apply for funding opportunities that support cultural heritage tourism development. Others provide needed information on challenges and obstacles facing the tourism industry. Also, AIANTA has rolled out an interactive new town hall series hosted by our AIANTA board president, Mr. Emerson Bayo, and our AIANTA CEO, Mrs. Sherry L. Rupert. They have begun to unveil our major initiatives for the upcoming year, and we would like to hear from you. So please join us for our next town hall meeting, Tourism Marketing Initiatives for 2022 and beyond, on September 29th at 1 p.m. Mountain. This third session, as AIANTA enters its new fiscal year, the association is rolling out an exciting series of new partner opportunities. And AIANTA has already established partnerships with the Juan Bautista de Anza National Historic Trail, the Lewis and Clark National Trail, and the Native American Agricultural Fund. We also will be celebrating 250 and more years of Native American history in conjunction with America 250 partnership. Additionally, we are rolling out a new collaboration with Leave No Trace, an organization that strives to minimize travelers' impact on the destinations they visit. AIANTA encourages everyone to join the interactive discussion of our partnership programs and how they can lead to greater prosperity for tribal communities. Again, visit our website at aianta.org to learn more about our educational program offerings, and at aianta.org/AITC for additional information and registration for this year's 23rd Annual American Indian Tourism Conference. And before we get started, just want to let you know, please put your questions in the Q&A or in the chat, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. Again, thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Building a Main Street Community in Indian Country. I am pleased to introduce you to our speakers today. First is Mario Hui. He is the Executive Director from the Zuni Pueblo MainStreet. He is from the Pueblo of Zuni in New Mexico and belongs to the Frog Clan and Child of Parrot Clan. He worked as an electrician for the Zuni Housing Authority from 1993 to 2012. Mario had higher aspirations to serve the community of Zuni by assisting with economic sustainability, which led to an undergraduate program while still working full-time and having a family and earning a BBA in finance from the University of New Mexico in 2014. Mario earned a graduate degree in public administration in 2018, also from the University of New Mexico, joined the Zuni Pueblo MainStreet board in 2012 and served as vice president until December 2018, at which, when asked to serve as interim director, he accepted. Mario was then hired March 2019 for the Zuni Pueblo MainStreet. We also have Tom Kennedy, who was a director of tourism for Zuni Pueblo, who is now retired. Since 2001, Tom Kennedy served as director of tourism for the Zuni tribe, where his responsibilities included developing tourism initiatives, as well as the administration and preservation of the historic Our Lady of Guadalupe mission, and developing educational tours to local venues. His most recent project with the Ashiwi Awa Museum at Zuni Pueblo was created as a major NEH-funded exhibit on the ancestral village of Hawiku. I'm sorry, I probably pronounced that wrong. The accumulation of Tom's professional career was the development of the MainStreet program. This project resulted in a proclamation signing on July 5th, 2012, designating Zuni Pueblo as not only a bona fide New Mexico MainStreet program, but the very first Native American MainStreet in the United States. Tom retired in December 2020 to concentrate on family and home projects. However, he remains involved and connected to both Zuni Pueblo MainStreet and the Zuni Tourism Program as needed. And third, we have Norma Ramirez de Mies. She is the Vice President of Revitalization Services with MainStreet America, leading the delivery of technical assistance that helps communities build, grow, and sustain successful revitalization programs across the country. She offers over 20 years of direct leadership experience in downtown revitalization and nonprofit management, and an inspiring passion for the value of MainStreet in comprehensive community economic development. Norma's experience as a former MainStreet director provides deep understanding on the critical role that MainStreet staff and volunteers play in leading local revitalization and drives her support to leadership development. She helped launch MainStreet America Institute, the center's professional development program, and thoroughly enjoys conducting trainings at statewide and national conferences, as well as in local communities all across the country, which Norma will always attest at her most favorite and most rewarding places to be. And last but not least is Daniel Gutierrez, director of the New Mexico MainStreet. He also coordinator of the Frontier Communities and New Mexico Historic Theaters Initiative, and develops and manages MainStreet's financial incentives and funding partnerships. Prior to joining the team as assistant director in 2014, he was executive director of Barelas MainStreet and founding member, community organizer, and project director of the Barelas Community Coalition. Daniel has extensive grant writing, research, and community economic development experience in implementing comprehensive community-based planning and economic development strategies, permanently affordable housing, New Mexican identity, and protecting historic and low-income communities from negative impacts of revitalization and gentrification. He holds a BA in anthropology, Native American studies from UC Davis, and a MA PhD candidacy in cultural anthropology from University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. And now, at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Daniel Gutierrez. You're on mute, Daniel, and you can share your screen.
Working all the kinks. All right, so can you see my screen now? And hopefully you can hear me. And actually, thanks Bianca for the introduction. And it's great to actually share this presentation with all former MainStreet directors, which it's really exciting that we're all doing different things. I can't wait to be at the retirement stage like Tom, but we're all working there. But I've known him for a long time as well, and we've done great work together, and it's exciting to be able to share this space with you, all of you. My name is Daniel Gutierrez. I'm the director of the New Mexico MainStreet program. We are housed in the Economic Development Department for the state of New Mexico. We're a program in the Economic Development Division, and we've been licensed and accredited by the National MainStreet Center for the past 37 years. So we are, we've been around for a while. We've done a lot of, we've grown, I think, from like 5 programs initially to 31 programs with full MainStreet programs right now. throughout the state. Our primary core objective of our program is downtown revitalization and redevelopment. And we kind of, take it in three ways. It's focused on building local capacity for economic revitalization and redevelopment efforts. And that's really our focus on people. Enhancing the entrepreneurial and creative economy is more focused on creating a thriving space where businesses and entrepreneurs can thrive. And the creating thriving places is more of the design aspect, where we really want places where people want to come. They look great. They're places where people can interact. So as I said, we're part of a larger movement that Norma will talk more later towards the end, but I did, we're part of a MainStreet America that does have a certain approach. It's a holistic approach to economic development, historic preservation, a preservation-based economic development. But they do look at, or we do, using this model, look at four different components. We at the design, looking at, like I said, the streetscapes, creative placemaking, spaces that make it a place that you want to go to, organizational development, focusing on the people. So our ETS is our objectives actually kind of coincide with this. Economic vitality is focusing on the entrepreneurs, the small businesses, bringing people in, and promotion, in terms of promoting the district and our businesses, events, giving people a reason to want to come. So, it's a holistic, approach. It is focused on transformation strategies. We're in the economic development department, so we call them economic transformation strategies, that we work with all of our communities to really hone in on what they want to be, so we can work with them using these 4 points to really drive the work that they want to accomplish. I told you we are within the state department, but New Mexico MainStreet is our bread and butter. That's what we get money from the legislature to run. But we also know that there's a lot more need in the state of New Mexico for this type of work. So we've kind of tailored and even used the MainStreet model in some ways to do other work. So we do serve as an umbrella organization for other types of programs. We have an arts and cultural district program that it's similar to MainStreet, and many of our MainStreet organizations have an arts and cultural designation based on their assets and their focus on creative economy and arts and cultural heritage. So it's just really tailoring that model to support that type of work. We have 12 of those programs throughout the district, or throughout the state. We also have a Frontier and Native American Communities Initiative, where it's almost like MainStreet Light. We know not every community can actually has the capacity or even resources to start a full MainStreet program. A full MainStreet program entails a public-private partnership between the state, local community, local government, and a nonprofit, or so where we got three kind of legs working together to really drive the work for economic development downtown. But we also know that there's communities that don't necessarily have the financial resources for a full-time economic development director for a MainStreet program. So we do have project-based initiatives where we really focus and hone on just one project over a 12 to 18-month period of time. And that's where we really, these are our smallest communities for the Frontier. Our urban neighborhood commercial corridor projects are a similar thing, but just in neighborhood scale, because we really don't have a lot of urban areas in New Mexico except for Albuquerque, Santa Fe, and Farmington. So it is limited in that scope. But we also do historic theater initiatives where we work on updating old historic theaters, especially in rural communities, and bringing them up to current specs for digital projection and sound. And you can see a map of all our different communities that we've been working in. Now, the Native American MainStreet has been something that was on our mind for a long time. I mean, we are a state that we have I think we're often thought of as a tricultural state, with Native New Mexicans, indigenous people, and Americans that came here after or that migrated here over time. So, we always wanted to find ways how can we serve, a broader community, our broader state better, especially Native American communities, because our focus is really on helping underserved communities in need of technical assistance and the help they can get from the state. So I know initially, and I'm going to let Tom and Mario are going to go into this in detail around Zuni because they are the showcase here. But I just wanted to kind of point out that we have been thinking about this for a while, and we did do a feasibility study back in 2007, just to see how, because I think we did get some interest from Zuni Pueblo and even Shiprock. So we did a feasibility study back in 2007 on Zuni Pueblo and Shiprock chapter of the Navajo Nation to see, does the MainStreet model fit working in a Native American community? Because there are very different things that we have to consider. We did a preliminary site analysis and some conceptual designs on potential projects that could happen. And, I think some of the things that we found were that, communities, these two communities at least evolved in non-traditional MainStreet patterns. So it was a little different. There was no core densely populated districts or clusters of centers, which, would, make it more of a space that you would have, traditional, like a traditional city has, master planning and zoning. So there were some hurdles that we had to think about, or not, or how do we adjust the MainStreet model to make it appropriate? And what I've always liked about the MainStreet model was that it is adaptive. I always seen it as a bottom-up approach to community economic development. And I was a director in Morelos. It's a traditionally Hispanic Chicano community in Albuquerque that went through a lot of years of disinvestment. And when we wanted to start working on our 4th Street corridor, MainStreet model actually really fit. We adapted it, changing it around to fit, our current community. And I think that's exactly how we have thought about, Native American communities and working there. So, I think the idea is that Native American communities can benefit. It may not be the traditional model, but it's certainly adaptable to accommodate these types of projects. And, but the key was, as we move forward, developing a culturally sensitive approach, because we know, Native communities are very different when it comes to, traditions, where you can and can't go in certain times of the year. We wanted to be sensitive about that. And I think we've done a really good job trying to work with tribes throughout New Mexico to really accommodate that. So we went on from the feasibility study, wrong way, to actually starting Zuni MainStreet. And, after it took a few years to get from the feasibility study, and I think Tom and Mario are going to go in detail about that, but we were able to start a Zuni Pueblo MainStreet in June of 2011. And there's a lot of things we learned from that experience that, I think transferred over to our work in Frontier and Native American Communities initiatives, where we started working more on project-based economic development projects versus starting a full MainStreet, just to help build some capacity early on. And, from that, these have turned almost into our feeder future MainStreet programs. And we're now started working with Taos Pueblo. That one's has been on hold, and I think that's the kind of the thing working. We can move, and then we have to take a little time, make sure things are right. But so sometimes they can, be on hold for a little while. That was our first one. Laguna Pueblo, we started work with in 2009, and they're going for a full MainStreet district, and their idea at Laguna and even Taos was creating a space outside of the ceremonial areas where people from the community can still sell their wares, or you can still be some economic activity even during ceremonial times, right? So it's not like everybody's completely cut off. There's still opportunities. So this is they had some old trading posts at Laguna and areas where they're trying to just redevelop, and they started off with community process in terms of developing some type of market, but it was really nice. We were able to go out there and do kind of a hands-on creative placemaking projects in terms of what something like that could look like. But we're also working with Laguna Pueblo now, and they're really focused on more of an arts and cultural district area in their cultural center area. Picaris is focused on tourism, attracting other folks there. They put a lot of money into amenities. So we're really helping them with promotions and tourism in terms of how to attract people, how to market themselves. Santo Domingo Pueblo is new. We just starting that project this year, but they're looking at trying to or activate an old trading post that has been rehab, but they're still working on developing a business plan. So we're going to help them develop a business plan, something that can actually get people there. And Ojo Encino is looking for more of a pop-up market. But again, those two are just starting, but we're excited that, this work is still moving on. And I think that started in Zuni, and we'll move it to Zuni and let them kind of tell you their story and how things are going there. Let me stop sharing my.
All right, thank you, Daniel. Let me bring up Zuni's PowerPoint here. Okay, so Tom and Mario, go ahead and take it away. Mario, you're on mute.
Okay, that's probably better. Good morning. How's everyone doing this morning? I'm Mario Hui. I'm director of Zuni Pueblo MainStreet, and Tom is here with me, who will be providing some information on the origins of Zuni Pueblo MainStreet and how MainStreet came about here in Zuni, and then I'll be speaking about the benefits. So I'll turn it over to Tom.
Great, thanks, Mario. First of all, I want to say it's a delight to be on here with two former colleagues. Bianca Mitchell was at one time a colleague as the director of Grants MainStreet. I don't know if she mentioned that. And then Daniel, as he had mentioned, was director of Barelas. So when we were all somewhat newbies, learning the ropes and attending the various seminars, which I have to say are really important. They get you around the state, they connect you with colleagues, and all that's been very positive. I really appreciate that, and I reflect even today at various times on some of those great experiences that we had. So that was really wonderful. Let's see, next slide, Bianca. There we go. Well, what I want to do, since, hey, I've been retired for a few months now, so I have the luxury of doing what I want to do. And so I thought, as my part, I was going to go into the good, bad, and the ugly of starting our Zuni Pueblo MainStreet. As Daniel alluded to, it's not always a linear progression. Definitely in communities as unique as our native communities. And Zuni Pueblo is no exception to that. I had been at Zuni about 10 years or more. I actually came in 1995. My background really is as a museum professional, and I came to be the director of the Ashuawan Museum and Heritage Center. after a few years there, well, the tribe had asked us at the museum to get involved in this thing called tourism. And so we had actually successfully submitted for some federal grants, and those had come through, and I had a choice to make. I could either continue with the museum or do something different, and that would be working for the tribe, setting up a tourism program. So I opted for the latter. And after a number of years with setting up that program, one of the issues, and that was alluded to in my bio, was looking for some historic preservation means, funds, understanding for Our Lady of Guadalupe mission, historic mission, one of the oldest Franciscan missions in New Mexico. I believe that was established in 1543. And that took me to a workshop down in Las Cruces that New Mexico MainStreet was putting on. Now, I went for historic preservation understanding and learning, but they talked a good bit about this thing called MainStreet. That was actually my introduction to the whole concept. And so I came away from there not only with some concept of historic preservation and some contacts, but also thinking that MainStreet concept could possibly work for Zuni Pueblo. So then we jump ahead to early 2008, and we had a new governor had been elected, Governor Arlen Quitauqui Sr., who actually I had known as long as I'd been in Zuni. He was a councilman first. He had been elected governor, and actually when we were first setting up our tourism program, and then here he was reelected as governor. So at our very first orientation meeting for, as all programs do, provide an orientation to the tribal council about what your program is all about and doing. So I had my format here of what I was going to talk about, which didn't include MainStreet, incidentally. I wanted to broach that some point in the future. But before we started, Governor Quitauqui leans over to me and he goes, "Now, Tom, you know, we need to clean up our MainStreet before we can invite tourists to our Pueblo." Now that caught me off guard because he used the words MainStreet, but meaning it in a different sense, literally our main street. And so I said, "Governor, if that is something of interest to you, I actually have recently been introduced to the concept, and I think it's something that could work for Zuni very well. Do you want me to contact the state MainStreet office?" And he said, "Oh yes, please do." So I did. I reached out. I believe it was Rich Williams was the state director at the time. And my next surprise was the MainStreet office informed me, "Well, you know, we've been working with Zuni Pueblo." And I go, "Really?" This is the first I had heard of it. And obviously leadership at that point had not heard of that. So that was a bit of a surprise. And we said, "Well, set up the meeting and have you come and let's meet this new council." So I believe Rich Williams and Elmo Baca, who it turns out was the author of the, and next slide, Bianca. Well, at our very first meeting, here they are. We're all ready to have an open-ended discussion, and they present us with this document that was a fairly comprehensive site report and assessment study for the possibility of there being a Zuni Pueblo MainStreet. Now, that was the first I'd ever seen of this document, and obviously leadership hadn't been aware of it either. Now, just a little prior to this, my inklings of something like this, I didn't realize that it had gone this far, but I had contacted soon after our meeting with the tribal council, our planning and development office, whenever I had heard from State MainStreet that, oh, we've been working there. And I said, which department? And they said planning and development. So I had contacted them and had kind of received the brush off that, oh, well, yes, they had come and they had made some proposals, and there was a map on the wall of Zuni Pueblo, and they're saying, well, it would never work because look where they've located a number of key features like a cultural center, visitor center, and indeed it was right downtown across from what we call our middle village, our most historic, culturally significant, religiously significant part of the Pueblo. And that was it. So, okay, interesting. Obviously somebody didn't want that to go. But then whenever we were presented with this document, showed that there had actually been a fairly full study. And so what we proceeded on, as Daniel alluded to earlier, is engaging in this thing called MainStreet for Zuni. And we had to develop a lot of grassroots in the community efforts, introduce the concept, and actually formed a number of partnerships with community programs who were very sympathetic and very interested in the concept. And so we were moving forward successfully until, as Daniel had mentioned, the proclamation signing that was in mid 2012. But I guess the point that I wanted to make was MainStreet had made overtures to the community, and to their credit, perseverance. They hadn't given up on MainStreet, because the amazing thing is the date on this document is July 2007. I didn't find out about it, neither did leadership, till early 2008, fully 6 months or more after the document had come out. But obviously MainStreet was still open to the possibility of working with Zuni. And so one thing led to another. We were productive in getting a board together and reaching out to the community and engaging in some of the early projects and moving forward on this concept. And so all of that then sort of coalesced to that signing that we had made mention of. And then the rest, to some extent, is history, and that's what Mario's going to be talking about. All the wonderful things that have grown out of that. But I wanted to touch on a few things in this document, because in revisiting it, both Mario and myself, we were looking at the site report, and we found that actually, in many ways, they were right on. But why was it that it didn't catch on in the community? So Bianca, next slide. So, for example, and I'll just skip around on a couple of key pages in here, because many of the concepts that the original document were promoting were actually right on. Priorities in the upper right-hand corner: sustain culture and capture cash flow currently going to outside communities. Absolutely. Sustainable green architecture, suitable for existing architecture using local materials such as Zuni sandstone. All that is right on. Sustain culture, for example, agriculture, arts, language, by promoting sustainable tourism. All that we totally support. And then item number 2, create a cultural center. It's a great concept. We haven't fully realized that per se, except our visitor center has continued to function in that capacity. And then the concepts, of course: arts and crafts, a farmer's market. Main Street has been a little less involved in the farmer's market concept, but I believe that may be something that's evolving. But arts, as Mario will share with you, is front and center for what we're trying to do. And then next slide, Bianca. Yeah, create a streetscape environment. And that harkens back to Governor Quitowski's question to me. We need to do something about cleaning up our main street here. And that, of course, has been an ongoing focus. And in fact, just another quick aside, and it's a point I'll touch on shortly, and it's absolutely critical for Main Street in Indian communities, is culture, is front and center. And one of our very first projects was to re-envision the intersection, the four-way intersection, which is at the corner of our historic Middle Village. Well, it just so happens that on the northwest corner of that is a Kiva house. And when we were conducting a site visit, actually, with a number of contractors with Main Street, looking at the possibilities, because there's some flooding issues, there's a number of issues having to do with that space. And word had already gotten out to the Kiva members, and we arrived for just a walk-through visit, and here was half the Kiva waiting for us. And we had a very productive session, input session. And we strove to incorporate many of their concepts into that four-way. Now, a plan was developed, and it was actually based on community input, but that one had to go on a back burner for a while. But as I understand from Mario and the current Main Street board, that reconsideration of that four-way intersection is coming back onto the front burner. And so I appreciate that. And again, these things happen organically. And I think that's one of the things that the document, the site assessment, pointed out, is that, and again, we had talked about earlier, that progress is rarely linear. It's more often in such culturally rich communities, such as we find in Indian country, it's organic, and things ebb and flow, and they move in a different direction, and then they may come back and revisit an original concept. And that's what we saw all the way at Zuni Pueblo. And the next slide, Bianca. So a couple of things, next steps, it says, both, and it mentions that both Zuni and Shiprock, they were studying both of those, presents complex cultural, political, and infrastructural challenges to the conventional four-point Main Street approach to downtown revitalization. Again, all of those concepts were alluded to by Daniel, and that is what we have found throughout our time working with Main Street. And it was kind of an interesting point here that it's apparent from site visits to both communities that a downtown community revitalization project involving volunteers and structured organization is a slightly radical concept for both tribal governments. Interesting. So Zuni Pueblo's tribal governance system is a multi-layered, faceted network of both secular and religious leadership, and the decision-making process is generally opaque to outsiders, meaning one needs to be there for a little while to really understand how it works. However, one of the conclusions was that a partnership between New Mexico and Zuni Pueblo could evolve into a unique and innovative Main Street program, or also a community development program, and that is true. The point being, it needs to be unique, organic for that particular place. Next slide. So, and again, more of the understanding that tribal leaders are highly attuned to Zuni time, which is one of their findings, a sense of everything evolving at an organic pace. And this sensitivity to appropriate change has enabled the tribe to endure many trials since prehistoric time and era, and that is quite true. So anyway, next slide. So lessons learned from this initial approach, a number of things. The timing has to be correct. As I mentioned, this document that we have just been doing a very quick, brief overview had actually been completed some half a year before, in mid-2007. Some of us had not even heard about it. So the right personalities involved. Obviously, planning and development, that key catalyst wasn't there. And it took someone to see the opportunity, and in this particular instance, that was yours truly, who understood that this concept could indeed work at Zuni Pueblo. The other key concept is culture is central, absolutely central. Without it, you're going nowhere. And I think that's been some problems with some other communities, perhaps. And that's also created some setbacks in our own community at Zuni Pueblo. One needs to understand, respect, and involve key cultural and religious leaders in all aspects of this to make sure that what you're doing is consistent with where the culture is. And then lastly, go with the strengths. And in Zuni Pueblo's instance, that's our cultural arts. And you'll notice from Mario's presentation that the arts are key and central, and that's what we very much have focused upon. And that is really what is core to the economy, the local economy. We figure maybe 85 to 90% of the households are involved in creating culture arts to some extent. So that's it right there. That's huge. That's what we need to focus on. So in this little bit, I wanted to go into some of the early beginnings. A lot of it is kind of what you might expect and maybe might not expect in a situation in a local community. But thanks to good leadership and good coordination, that has brought us to where we are today. So with that, I will turn it over to Mario, my colleague.
Thank you, Tom, for speaking on the origins of Zuni Pueblo MainStreet. It's a very interesting beginning, but now we've been established. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We do have a strong board with community members involved, and they are a volunteer board who are not paid for their time, but volunteer because they want to help out their community. We also have on our board an ad hoc member, which is Councilman Arlen Quitauqui Sr., who is our liaison to the tribal council. Tom is also an ad hoc member who helps us every so often. Well, we try to recruit throughout the year for more to strengthen our board, to involve more others to join our board, to make our board stronger, to have the capacity to do the work that needs to be done here in Zuni. And with that, you're looking at a map of Zuni and how how untraditional it is from other communities in mainstream America. And we have buffer zones, we have areas that are very sensitive. But if you look closely, residential homes or businesses are grouped in different areas. So it's very unconventional. So we have to work with that. And we've heard from Daniel and Tom about being culturally sensitive. So everything that we do, most everything that we do, we involve our religious community, our religious leaders to help us to understand the things that we can do and we should be aware of. Next slide, please. Our work wouldn't move forward unless we had different partners and contributors. We receive grants from different organizations that help us to do the work that we need to do. The Pueblo of Zuni with the different programs like tourism and planning and development have been very essential in some of the work that we do. And these are only a few of our partners and our contributors that help us in our work. Next slide, please. And UNM has helped us a lot in providing us with data and with information and also planning documents. The Bureau of Business and Economic Research, I forgot the research there, but they did research on Zuni, on our demographics, our economy, the things that are happening here in Zuni, the things that we needed to be aware of, things that we needed to work on. So that document has been able to help us in the work that we're doing. It has also helped other programs within the Pueblo of Zuni to help them with some of the things that they're doing, the projects that they're doing, or maybe research that they do. This document is very handy and very reliable in taking some of the information and using it to help plan and do other projects. The Indigenous Design and Planning Institute, both of these organizations are part of the University of New Mexico. And the Indigenous Design and Planning Institute has been an essential partner in the work in our beginnings. The they helped us with some of these designs that you see here. Some of them we are not able to use because of the community and the cultural significance and aspects of our community. But there are things in the planning that we can use and adapt. As Daniel mentioned, we need to adapt because we are not a mainstream community. Okay, next slide, please. And some of the planning documents that we've been able to help with within the Pueblo of Zuni has been the Panhandle and Ordinance, which relates more to artisans who approach visitors trying to sell their work. So we've been working with the Pueblo of Zuni with that ordinance to help our artisans become more professional and understand how they should approach visitors or when not to approach them. Also, we've been involved with the land use planning. Zuni doesn't have a land use planning map yet. It's still in the process of being worked out. So we've been involved with that, understanding and knowing about businesses and where they should go or where there are sensitive areas in the community or on the reservation. We're also involved in the fair building, which is now called the fair building, but will be a community building with a conference center and also 3 incubator spaces for artisans, which we've been involved in. Since we are involved a lot with the artists, we were asked to help with the incubator spaces. So there will be 3 incubator spaces for the artists there. So that was a great project for us to help with. And we involved some of the artists to help us with design and what was needed in there. Next slide, please. Okay, some of the projects that we've been working on was the Artwalk America project, and this was with the Indigenous Design and Planning Institute from UNM. They were able to receive a grant on our behalf that helped us to engage community artists to help them to become more professional, and then eventually create the Artwalk, where each artist participating has a studio at their home, outside their home or inside their home, where visitors can visit and see how the artwork is created, and also to be able to purchase the Artwalk or the art that was created there. This was happening at least once a month until the pandemic hit, but there's still discussion in revitalizing the Artwalk and bringing it back up again. So it was involved, or community artists were involved, and Tom did mention that we do have at least 85% of our households involved in some sort of artwork to help them with their income, either help them with their income or sole part of or sole income. The Artwalk eventually evolved into the Ancestral Rich Treasures of Zuni Cooperative. And this was in support of from the local college, the Oshawa Career and Readiness Center here in the community. So the photograph on your left is the inside of the Arts Cooperative, and they labeled their artwork with the Made in Zuni insignia, letting people know that it was produced in Zuni and it's not artificial or comes from anywhere else. So those are a few of the projects that we were involved in. Next slide, please. In 2020, the Zuni community was closed to visitors. Visitors were allowed to pass through, but they weren't allowed to stop for fear of the virus spreading throughout the community. So we were able to receive grants to help our artists and our businesses. One of our wonderful partners is the First Peoples Fund, and through their Indigenous Arts Ecology grant, we were able to help 67 artists, and these were from the project involved purchasing artwork from the artists who were not able to sell their artwork anywhere else because of the closures of businesses and absolutely no tourism here in Zuni. So we were able to purchase artwork and also create credit lines in 4 businesses for them to purchase raw materials. We were also able to give 3 micro grants to potters who use traditional materials and who don't purchase materials from businesses. So we were able to help our local artists. And also the New Mexico Resiliency Alliance gave us a grant to help our local businesses. And we were able to assist 7 businesses with micro grants to help them through the pandemic. Next slide, please. We have plans to make physical improvements here in our community along our corridor. Our corridor is probably about 2 miles long. Most of it is on Highway 53, which runs through our community, and then off of one of our streets, probably about half a mile. So we have a large area which needs physical improvements. And one of the wonderful opportunities that we have as an accredited Main Street organization is to be able to receive technical assistance from New Mexico MainStreet. We're able to request assistance from their contract workers, whether it be an architect, landscape developer, capacity building. So most anything that we need help in, they were able to provide. And one of the great opportunities that we have as an accredited Main Street program is to be able to apply for capital outlay funds, which is part of the New Mexico Main Street program. We are looking at building a vendor space where vendors can sell their food, sell other products. So we're looking at that right now. Also, in the future, we hope to use the Great Blocks project, which is also another program of New Mexico Main Street, And I believe it was Tom that mentioned the four-way project, which has been put on hold as we worked with the artists who is a major part of our economy. But we will be turning back to our four-way project and working on that. Since the four-way project was proposed, we had a community meeting. Many people were involved, including our youth, to voice their thoughts on what should be part of the four-way project. And some of these pictures, the second from the left is one of the meetings that was held. And the next one, and the one on the right, is a rendering of what the four-way would look like. And then on the top right is community members coming together to make decisions on what should be included in the project. And you can see Tom on closer to the upper right corner there. But we will be going back to that, and as mentioned before, the religious community has to be involved since this is a sensitive area. So there are a lot of things a lot of work that has to go into this besides just going to planning and development and saying, we want to have this project here and get the okay and start on it. There's many people involved, many aspects that need to be, aspects of the work that needs to be delivered to other parts of the community besides just the tribal government. Next slide, please. And one thing that we're really known for is our annual MainStreet Festival. We have that in early May, usually the first weekend in May. And these are some of the pictures photos of our MainStreet festivals. We involve our artists. That's one of the main purposes of the festival, is to help our artist community to be able to sell their products. We have international visitors besides local visitors from the United States and the surrounding area. We have artists coming from different areas. The last festival we had artists coming from El Paso. So many different people, many artists come and join us. We also involve other programs such as the environment protection here in Zuni, which has their trash art. You can see the road runner and the praying mantis that were made from recycled material. We also have a water eating contest, watermelon eating contest, and dances throughout the day. And also we involve our local businesses by having scavenger hunts and different activities. So that's what we do at Zuni Pueblo MainStreet. And we will have a question and answer session after the next presentation, and I can answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario and Tom. And we will now turn it over to Norma with the America MainStreet. Let me stop. You got that? All right.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. It is, I feel humbled with the opportunity to be here as part of this webinar, and also feel the privilege of learning as much as I can from the other presenters. A big thanks and a special thanks to AIANTA for including us. I see a lot of common grounds, and I'm hoping that we can explore and continue to explore opportunities to work together in support of the Native American communities across the country. But again, a pleasure to be here. I'm Norma Ramirez de Mies. I was born and raised in Honduras, in the land of the Mayas, and my family descends of the Mayan people. So the Native American cultures has a very big place in my heart. I have a lot of respect and admiration for the peoples of the Native American nations that we visit and across the country. So thank you for your efforts. Thank you for the opportunity to learn from you and perhaps to also share with you some of the tools we offer as MainStreet. We are the National MainStreet Center, an organization that is a subsidiary of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. And that organization was founded by Congress and as part of their efforts concerned about the demolition of buildings and destruction of downtowns across the country, we created, or the National Trust created, MainStreet as a program to explore first in 3 communities across the country, just how, what are some of the ingredients or key tools that need to be in place for revitalizing the historic commercial district. And we learned from those efforts, and we've learned throughout the last 40 years that we've been in place, and now not just as a program, but truly as a subsidiary of the trust, supporting community revitalization across the country. And so with that, we have an opportunity to share with you that MainStreet is not only a methodology, and I'll talk more about that, but also it's a movement of communities committed to the revitalization of their commercial districts, of their downtowns and historic cores, but also of their entire communities. Really, it's an expression of the opportunity to look at all aspects that make a community successful, that bring back not only a sense of pride, but also a sense of vitality and place that people can visit, enjoy, and live there as well. So it is a very much a preservation-based economic development approach that has been in place for, like I said, more than 40 years. And we have over 2,000 communities across the country doing revitalization. They have been utilizing the MainStreet approach for years, but at different levels. Some taking the MainStreet and hitting the ground running, others taking their time, others really maturing and progressing continually. So we're all at different levels. And that's one thing that we know and acknowledge across our movement, that some of us are new, some of us have been in revitalization for a long time and continue to learn from each other. So throughout these efforts, we have coordinating partners across the country, and New Mexico MainStreet is one of our coordinating partners. Through that effort, we license the use of the MainStreet approach so that the New Mexico MainStreet can then not only coordinate the designation of communities, but also build a very strong resource center for the communities they serve. And we're very proud of seeing the efforts ongoing of the New Mexico MainStreet. So I encourage you to take a look and see what they offer and how many can look at using their resources. But also we have other coordinating programs with Native American communities in their state. I work closely with Oklahoma, Washington State, Michigan, and many others that have not only communities with a strong Native American presence, but also local governments that are very involved in the MainStreets. However, we are very attentive that in New Mexico MainStreet, we had the opportunity about 8 years ago to work, about 10 actually now, to work with New Mexico. Back then was Rich Williams, the director of the program, and very committed to really taking a look at see how MainStreet could be a support system to the efforts that were ongoing in the Pueblos and the Native American communities. And so we had under their team the invitation to National MainStreet to be part of these efforts. And I remember having conversations about how the designation can be not only a tool, but also the whole process of the approach can be implemented. And one of the things we learned through those conversations is that, just as Mario mentioned, that MainStreet is an approach that works in communities, but it is a tool. The communities have to use it to meet their needs, and it is not intended to change the community's fabric. It is intended to promote it, to leverage it, and to make it a support system for really highlighting the local assets. So we're very proud of that commitment, and would like to see other Native American communities take a look at MainStreet as an approach and be part of the movement to just learn from other communities across the country what they're doing, what fits with you, what might be good for you, and then what can you teach others as well. Because again, this is a movement that learn from each other. At the heart of MainStreet is that 4-point approach to really look at supporting community transformation. And it is not a transformation that changes a community's local fabric from what it is to look more like somebody else. That is not the intention we have. The intention is to really take a look at how the community can use the approach to leverage your own assets. So for example, the economic vitality point really takes a look at supporting your existing economic base. What makes your communities unique in the economy that you offer to your residents, to your businesses, to the visitor. And so that's an opportunity for us to support small businesses. And if you think of the local movement, MainStreet is as local as you can imagine, because we support the small businesses of our communities. And it is basically because we have in every downtown, every core commercial district, every community that is small or big, the small businesses make our economy, and we want to support that, and not only support those that we have, but also help communities define how they can build more entrepreneurship from within, and help to really build local development in the way that fits their communities as well. So with that, we have a strong attention to design as an area where we look at the physical elements of the community and how can they be not only preserved with the fabric, the character, that and the heritage that it was left for us to enjoy and to continue, but also how we can enhance some of those elements so that it can be a welcoming, inviting, and a place that we can feel proud of. And so that's what design intends to do as well, looking at the physical element, preserve it, enhance it, and make it appealing to both locals and visitors. And these two main points really take a look at the opportunity to work with our own property and business owners, our own entrepreneurs, different sectors of your industries, public and private sector. MainStreet believes that by working together, we can achieve a lot more. And through the area of promotion, we invite people to take a look at what makes you unique and to leverage that and market it. But it is exactly that what MainStreet promotes. It's not about, again, becoming somebody else, but really highlighting your local assets and promoting them so that you can build unique and distinctive destinations for your communities by highlighting the rich cultural assets, the rich environment, and the opportunities for people to not only respect them, but enjoy them. And then through the point of organization is where we come together with everybody in the community, because supporting businesses or entrepreneurs, supporting and enhancing your space, and creating activities or marketing your community's assets cannot be done just by one organization. It has to be a consensus building effort an effort that it's ongoing about bringing people from all sectors of your community together. In MainStreet, we believe the public sector, in other words, the government, local governments, and the regional and state governments can be supportive, but it is the people that also can lead those efforts. And that's where we see the opportunities to invite the entire community to be part of a MainStreet program. In every aspect of the 4-point approach, there's a place and an opportunity for people to lead, to volunteer, to be part of these efforts. So what you see here is the 4-point approach that we promote as the MainStreet approach or the MainStreet philosophy. It is intended to really support your community's transformation, your community's vitality, and that, again, as much as we do have different downtowns, different communities across the country, some with different heritage, some very diverse in heritage and increasingly diverse demographics. What we promote is that for Native American communities, for example, it is about how not only you can leverage those assets, continue to maintain and preserve your heritage, but also promote it among the rest of the network and among the rest of the country. And that's what we intend when we look at a MainStreet program for Native American communities. It is the opportunity to highlight that you have a very strong base of entrepreneurs. I come from the Hispanic community, and I know that many of our minority communities, multicultural communities, our heritage is about entrepreneurship. We have it in our blood, and that is what MainStreet wants to support. But we also want to support a design of the space and development of space that actually fits and aligns with your heritage and with what you consider important and sacred as well. And the opportunity to celebrate and continue to have those traditions that keep the culture going and promote it as a destination. And again, the opportunity to bring people from all sectors to support these efforts and lead them. That is what MainStreet can do, not only for the communities across the country, but also, we believe, for Native American communities. And we hope that you take a look at that opportunity and see. But in addition to the 4-point approach, at the center of that approach, we have some integrated components to really help organizations and communities develop and plan and implement the work of revitalization. We believe that starts and always ends with community, and the vision that the community can have for your downtown, for your core commercial district, for your entire area, because in small communities, the MainStreet approach is applicable to the entire community. But so we encourage, when a MainStreet organization is established, that they continually, not only at the beginning, but throughout the years, continue to reach to the community for their input. What do you want this MainStreet to be? What do you want our efforts to be focused on? And from year to year, learning from each other, and then also inviting the community to be part of that, making that happen. We also understand that it is important to look not only at the market conditions of our own community, but also our surrounding area. And we believe that by understanding those market conditions, we are better prepared, along with the community's input, to make decisions on what is the direction or strategy that can help us transform our districts, our communities, to make them better, to really help them succeed. And so that's what we call transformation strategies, the opportunity to make decisions that are based on informed inputs between understanding the market and being conscious of what the community wants. It is not an opportunity just for a board or a small group of people that sits at a table to say, oh, let's make these decisions. And that's one thing that I know in our communities we value, and that is the input the communities have and the respect for everybody's voice And that's what MainStreet also strives to help communities be attentive to those voices and implement them, so that then the projects, the events, the initiatives, the activities that you all can put together will be based on those inputs and the direction that you want to follow for the next year, for the next 3 years, for the next 5 years. So then we help communities develop their work and work their plan so that that plan can fit and the needs of that community. And we invite MainStreet programs to always measure the outcomes. If we have an event, what do we want to achieve out of that event? And what will be the sign of success? In many ways, we are hardworking at many of our projects. Many of your organizations perhaps can attest to that, but not always do we dedicate the time that is needed to measure what we want to accomplish so that we understand if it was successful or if it needs to be improved the following time, or if it needs to have a following to be done the next year. So these are very important integrated components that support the implementation of the approach so that it can be comprehensive. One of the key elements of MainStreet is that we're not looking to address only the promotional aspects. And we believe that tourism, for example, is a result of many efforts. And MainStreet communities have the opportunity to be comprehensive so that tourism can be successful to the economy, to the promotion and marketing of the destination, but also to the space, respectful and supportive of preserving the space, of enhancing it. All these pieces need to be in place to really think of a comprehensive approach. We also believe that the MainStreet needs to be asset-based. In other words, really valuing what we have. For too long, our communities across the country have tried to look around and say, oh, that's what success looks like. We believe that success looks like when we look at who we are and try to keep it, preserve it, enhance it, and then invite the community to make it happen. Because then the sense of ownership develops, the sense of pride, and of course, the sense of vitality and activity along with that. We believe in incremental progress, in starting with the low-hanging fruit, but also as we go and move forward, really taking a look at the opportunities to take more complex opportunities. This you will see also shown through an arrow that where we highlight the same components. It's just two ways where you're going to see these integrated components and also the overall journey of the MainStreet approach. At the end of this effort, we just want to highlight that MainStreet is about local revitalization. We promote that MainStreet is locally powered through community-driven revitalization. And that, for example, is what we highlight. Zuni Pueblo partnered with New Mexico MainStreet, partnered with us, but it is their local community that is making it happen. We are just a support system that takes a look at what resources are needed and how can we be of support. And that support system brings the New Mexico MainStreet network and the resources from the state and other organizations, but also the network that is across the country, the national network that we have through MainStreet America, the program that supports our communities across the country. With that, I am including my contact information, but please feel free to reach out to Daniel Gutierrez as well. If you are in New Mexico, if you are in other parts of the country, feel free to also reach out to me. Just copy the two of us and see if we can be of support in your efforts, or through communicating with AIANTA. We're hoping to continue this, but also feel free to reach to our MainStreet.org website, where we promote many of the initiatives, highlight successes, and we want to highlight what Native American communities are doing as well. And then the tools, you're going to find that we're working on tools for businesses as well as communities. We have MainStreet online tool that is free and available for every business in the MainStreet and everywhere. But we also have a community where you can connect with others across the country and share what you're looking for or what you have to highlight. Again, very appreciative of the opportunity to be part of this effort and look forward to hearing from many of you. Thank you.
You're muted, Bianca.
Unmuted. How many of you have heard that? Thank you all. I just want to say thank you to Norma, Daniel, Mario, and Tom for your presentations today on New Mexico MainStreet, of course, America MainStreet, and the Zuni MainStreet, the first Native American MainStreet community in the US. And right now we will take questions. Does anyone have any questions for our presenters today? I know that Sherry Bowman, our education support specialist, has entered some of the website links to all of the programs that are presenting today. And again, thank you for joining us. Is there anything, last comments that you want to add, Tom or Mario, Norma, Daniel?
Just a big thanks. We will be celebrating the Native American Heritage Month in November, and we love to hear what communities are doing that you would like to promote. I'm already talking with Daniel and Mario just to see if we can highlight the efforts that are ongoing in Zuni Pueblo and other Native Americans in New Mexico as well. So look forward to hearing from communities across the country.
Ms. Mario, I want to thank AIANTA for inviting us to do this presentation on Zuni Pueblo MainStreet. MainStreet has been I believe it has been very successful here in the community, and it's helps support us in many projects that we've been doing and thinking about. So it is a success here in Zuni, and it can be a success in different Native communities also. Thank you.
And I just want to say I appreciate the opportunity to reach back in time to remember some of the great experiences that we had in organizing our Zuni Pueblo MainStreet. And thanks again for being reminded of such wonderful colleagues that we've had past and present. So thank you again for participating.
Great, thanks. I want to say thanks as well. And I just want to kind of point real quick to what Norma said earlier. And when I talked about MainStreet being an adaptive approach, Norma was right, it's a tool. And I've always thought of it like that. The work really comes from within. So it's just a tool that you can adapt to use in your community, but it also comes with resources. If you have you're connected to National MainStreet Center or a state coordinating program, it brings financial resources and technical assistance as well. So look into your local program and, we're always open to questions whenever you have them, calling us directly. So thanks.
Cool, well, thank you all. And yeah, it was great working with you, Daniel and Tom. I was a part of the Grants MainStreet project as the executive director for almost 4 years, and what a great organization and program. There's so much opportunity and resources available working through the local MainStreet communities and the state as well. But I just want to let you all know that we will be posting the webinar on the AIANTA website, and we'll send a link to all the registration email addresses. And please follow us at aianta.org/webinar for future webinars hosted by us. If you are not a member of AIANTA and would like to be, please contact Gail Shehack, Tribal Relations and Outreach Manager. Her email is on the slide here. You can also do so by visiting our website at aianta.org. Again, we appreciate you being here today. Have a great day, and we wish all the MainStreet programs much success and we shall talk soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi all.
Bye-bye.